Kinds of livelihoods. Livelihoods can be of three different kinds. Livelihoods related to the nature and land, such as agriculture, mining, fishing, and forestry, are primary livelihood. Livelihoods that involve the transformation of raw materials into finished products in small and large-scale industries are called secondary livelihoods. Tertiary livelihoods refer to those livelihoods that provide essential services such as banking, legal services, medical services, and teaching. In villages, most people have primary livelihood.
Climate in India. The climate of India varies from place to place. The coastal areas along the Western Ghats are wet because of the rain-bearing winds. On the other hand, Rajasthan remains dry because the Aravalli mountains are not high enough to check the rain-bearing winds, hence the Thar desert. Interior and central part of India experiences extreme forms of climate on a hot summer day. The temperature in Jodhpur in the Thar desert may shoot up to 55 degrees Celsius, while Ladakh at high altitude has midwinter temperature of minus 45 degrees Celsius. Daily temperature may also vary greatly in some places, while day temperature may be very high in the Thar desert. It may drop down to below 0 degree at night. Latitude. With the Tropic of Cancer running through almost the middle of the country, most of India lies in the tropical and subtropical zones. So the temperature is quite high throughout the country. Altitude. Temperature decreases with increase in altitude. Places in the mountains are colder than places in the plains. As for instance, Shimla and Ludhiana are situated in the same latitude. Yet Shimla, being located at higher altitude, has a cooler climate. The northern belt of mountains has cold climate all through the year because of high altitude. Ooty in the Nilgiris in South India and Mount Abu in Rajasthan are pleasant hill stations which remain cold throughout the year, even though they are situated in hot region and relatively close to the equator. Himalayas. The Himalayas in the north stand as a barrier against the cold winds from northern and central Asia. Thus, North India is warm or mildly cold during winter. In summer, the same phenomenon makes India relatively hot. But this mighty mountain also forces the monsoon winds to shed most of their moisture within the subcontinent and causes 3/4 of India's rainfall. Had there not been this mighty mountain barrier, the monsoon would have blown into Central Asia and the northern part of India would have remained dry. Distance from the ocean and sea. Places always from the ocean and sea have extreme temperature and continental climate. This continental type of climate is characterized by hot summers and cold winters. The effect of water bodies on the temperature of these areas is moderate. Coastal areas and places near the sea. On the other hand, the coastal areas have a more equable climate with much less differences between summer and winter temperature. The ocean acts as a storehouse of moisture for the winds that blow from the sea towards the land. The high-lying regions in the mountains have lower temperature than the plains. In the mountainous regions, climate is determined mainly by the altitude. Winds. When there is a difference between atmospheric pressure between two regions, air moves from the region of higher pressure to the region of lower pressure. This movement is called wind. The monsoon is a seasonal wind which blows in a fixed direction during a particular season. The monsoon affects the climate of a large part of India. Other seasonal winds also blow over different parts of the country. Western disturbances. The cold weather is generally characterized by clear skies, low temperatures, low humidity, and light and cool winds. These conditions are disturbed by cyclones coming from the Mediterranean Sea. These cyclonic winds are known as western disturbances.
Fishing. Fishing is a major occupation for people living in the coastal region. In fact, along the coastal areas, we can find rows and rows of villages where fishermen reside. Generally, the men go out for fishing in their fishing boats very early in the morning. When they come back, the women sell the fish. Sometimes fish are brought in bulk from the fishermen and then sold in the local markets of villages and cities. Life of a fisherman is tough. He has to depend on the weather, sometimes while in the sea. Other means of livelihood. Apart from agriculture, people in the villages have many types of livelihoods. The kind of livelihood pursued by people in an area depends on the physical features of that area as well as the availability of raw materials. For example, making small things out of coir is an occupation of many people living in areas where coconut trees are abundant. People are also engaged in pottery making, collecting fruits and firewood from the forests, and weaving. Blacksmithing, selling goods in shops, carpentering and teaching are some other occupations that people choose to earn a livelihood. Similarly, some people are engaged in animal husbandry and some work as laborers, while some are involved in small-time trading. There are health centers in villages where apart from doctors and trained nurses, many other people work at different levels. Cottage industries. Home-based industries in villages are called cottage industries. Families use their own equipment. Generally, all the family members are involved in a cottage industry. Cottage industries produce clothes, mats, materials carved from wood, metal, coir, jewelry, embroidery, matchsticks, incense sticks, and food items such as pickles. Dairy farming. Dairy farming is another important means of rural livelihood. In many villages, there are dairy cooperatives where villagers sell the milk they produce. Apart from milk, different dairy products such as butter, cheese, paneer, and ghee are prepared and sold by the cooperatives in cities all over the country. One of the most significant examples of dairy cooperatives which has transformed the lives of many villagers is Amul.